And we are live. Welcome to today's episode of MicroConf On Air. As always, I'm your host, Rob Walling. Every other Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, we live stream for 30 minutes and we cover topics related to building and growing ambitious SaaS startups that bring us freedom and purpose and allow us to maintain healthy relationships. We believe that showing up every day, day after day, year after year, and shipping that next feature, that piece of marketing copy, or closing your next sale is the way to build a sustainable company. And today we're talking about ways to build how we've built a sustainable community and an in-person event. In a minute, I'm going to welcome I almost used your old title. Producer Xander got a little title bump. He's not, are you director Xander now? He's our event director at MicroConf, Xander Castro. He has 14 years in events, ranging from concerts to music festivals, weddings, conferences, social events, and parades. I didn't know he produced a parade. That's awesome. He is the winner of the ILEA Best Entertainment Event, the MN, Minnesota Meetings and Events Up and Coming Event Producer, winner of Connect Meetings and Events 40 Under 40, or one of the folks in there. Formerly ran his own event production company. I stumbled upon Producer Xander on Elance and Upwork. No joke. In 2014, it was 7 years ago. It may even have been 2013. And Mike and I had been toiling away, spending way too much time not really knowing what we were doing as we were producing events. And so we went to look for some help. We found Xander Castro and we hired him from there. And since then, he came along to work full-time with us. Just, I guess it was he's almost to his 2-year anniversary of full-time MicroConf. So Producer Xander, can I welcome you to the show?
Hello.
It's nice to see you.
Got to switch that screen.
Yes. So folks know you are both a guest on the show and also producing the show at the same time. So there's going to be quite a bit of fun there. So I noticed that I'm wearing my MicroConf shirt, but you were wearing a Hawaiian shirt.
I am donning my Hawaiian print as I do every single day.
Yep. I also I'm going to see if this is a throwback for you. Do you remember this guy?
Oh, yes. The glassware.
MicroConf 2019, the last, U.S. growth event we had.
Event.
Yeah. I love this thing.
The number of people that would tell me that they could not take their glassware home with them because they would break in their suitcases. My number one response, just shove a sock in. You'll be able to get it there. It's not going to be a big deal.
That's what I did. I took 4 of these home in my bag and I checked the bag, it was all good. So I love this. We started doing glassware, I don't know, 5 years ago. And so we've done different models of it. It's been really cool.
Yeah.
So if you're in the audience, you're watching, would love to hear your questions. It's an AMA about MicroConf, and you can ask specifics of, the MicroConf online community, about our videos, about the backside production process. You can ask about pretty much, anything. And we'd love to hear from you. Should we start with Producer Sanders getting a question in there now? I think.
I think I'm gonna go ahead and take the first question on this one. I'm gonna turn the tables around on you. So I've been working with you for the last 7-ish years, and I've kind of seen where MicroConf has been close to the start of it. But I'm interested in hearing more about where you see things going in the next 10 years. Like, we just celebrated our 10-year anniversary back in June, and now we have kind of this vision for the future. And I just want to hear more about where you see things going. We've had some of these conversations, but where is MicroConf headed over the next 10 years?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good question. And there's the EOS, the book Traction by Gino Wickman has the entrepreneur operating system, and in there, I think you do 1, 3, and 10-year kind of visions, 1, 3, and 10-year plans, so to speak. And I've always had a tough time. I mean, 10 years is a long time. Like, the only things that I've done for 10 years are be married, have children, and run MicroConf and do the podcast. I mean, that's kind of it. Like, I've never had a job longer, even Drip, like, start to finish, like the day we started working on it to the day that Derek and I, left within a few months of each other was like 5.5 years. So thinking 10 years out is crazy. And thinking back to when we started it in 2011, it's that it's such a tired phrase, but like we had never imagined it would become what it is, right? We were trying to get 100 people together in a dingy, smoky ballroom of a hotel. And now, here we are years later, having impacted, tens of thousands of people, thousands and thousands of attendees. And it, not a month goes by that we don't get an email or a tweet or something that's like, here's how MicroConf in some way changed my trajectory, maybe changed my life, maybe, but it's changed how I thought about things and made me feel like I could do this because I saw these other examples. So all that to say, I think, the direction we've been heading is to try to bring, we used to have one MicroConf a year in Las Vegas, and then we had 2 a year in Las Vegas and Europe, and then we had 3 a year. And that, 2020, if COVID had not happened, we would have had 8 MicroConfs, I believe. And we didn't. We had 0, except for our remote. We had our remote events, but no in person.
Right.
And so I think a big push that you and I have explored is how do we bring MicroConfs to more people? And that's what the MicroConf local push is. And so assuming that it is still an experiment, like we don't know for sure it's going to work, but having these local events that are one day, they're low purchase price, they're around, we want to keep them around 100, in local currency, right? 100 pounds, 100 US, 100 euros. And they're just low commitment. And we want to reach folks who either don't have the means to get to a growth event, or they're just on the fence about, should I pay, whatever, $800 or $1,000 for a ticket? Should I fly? Should I get a hotel? It's hard to get away from home. But like once you touch on MicroConf and around that community, I think there's a big difference. So I see a continued expansion into our local events to try to get more events around the world and get, an event close to every listener and every person on our list. I see us continuing to double down on education. I mean, I think some people forget, they think of MicroConf as an in-person event. Really, it started as, let's get together and have a community, and also let's educate that community. Like those were the cornerstones that we started from, and that's what we've built on now. Right now, we have an online community and in person, and I think that education, I could see us in 10 years having a developed. I don't even want to. I don't like saying this, but like a curriculum. Is there more knowledge and information that we can pull out to help people get started? I mean, in my mind, the mission of MicroConf is to expand, to grow the number of, independent startups, self-sustaining independent startups in the world. Like we want that number to increase. And we have we've played a part in doing that so far. Right. Yeah. And so when we start at that, kind of mission, like what do people need? Well, some people need funding or want funding to get bigger. And that's why we started TinySeed out of MicroConf. And some people want community. And that's why we have MicroConf Connect. And that's why we have in-person events. And some people want education. And that's how we have it. We've had the conferences. And, there's all types of stuff. So I see us continuing to push into those avenues. And also, I mean, the mastermind matching has been so well received and so successful. And that's just an extension of community, right? That's just building smaller communities where you get 3 or 4 people together and they support each other, almost in a one-on-one fashion. It's 1 to 3 or 1 to 4. But I love the idea of continuing to do that as well as. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I think that the challenges we ran into with COVID wiping out, I don't know if anybody remembers the Future of MicroConf video we put out. There was a kind of this big splash around all of these different events we were going to be hosting. To have all of that just completely pulled away, we needed to kind of make a shift in terms of the way that we were communicating with the audience. And so developing all of the different digital products that we have, all of the video resources, the podcasts, all of these different opportunities to connect founders with founders with thought leaders and people that are doing the work in this space. Like I think that we accelerated the pace that we were planning to put out kind of these new resources that are going to help increase the volume of digital entrepreneurs and software entrepreneurs that are self-sustaining, that are customer funded, like that we kind of moved our timeline up by a year while having to remove all of our in-person events, which is what I really enjoy doing. And so it's been a fun balance of trying to figure out how to create more content, higher value digital pieces of product, to really find a way to deliver that expectation that people were looking for during our in-person events in a completely digital fashion. So I think that now that we've set the groundwork for that, it's super exciting looking ahead at being able to bring people back together and give them that same MicroConf experience in person while also having all of this background in digital content.
I agree. And something I like about how we attacked that was just the experimentation of it, of like, we're going to try a remote and we'll do it this way. And we had segments, and it's like some of it worked, some of it didn't. And then we tried it a different way, which was more focused on it was like the 4 or 5 early stage marketing approaches. And that seemed to resonate with people as well. And so all of this is an experiment. And I think that's something I've appreciated about it. I think that's the hard part of looking out 10 years is I don't know what experiments are going to work yet. I can tell you we're going to try a lot of experiments, and the ones that work and resonate, we're going to continue to double down on. The ones that don't, we will, shelve for now until the time is right. So,
right.
And I mean, with remote, remember, out of however many hundreds of 650, 700 tickets we sold, there were like 500 people that had never attended a MicroConf or something. I mean, it was a tremendous amount. And that was a realization for us too. It's like, these aren't just the people who've been to the in-person events. We are able to impact more people. And that's the goal here, right? Is how many people can we positively impact and encourage to do more, to get to self-sustaining quicker?
Yeah, as I look at the numbers of just access points that we've created over the course of the last year and a half, like 8,000 plus new subscribers on YouTube. We had just launched this YouTube channel that we're sitting on right now. Like the new opportunities that we created to have access to the content that we were developing and the conference talks, like our lists have really expanded, and we have the ability to reach way more people. And I think part of that was the dedicated focus on not just live event work. It was pushing those digital marketing strategies that we see across tons of different products that people are building within the community itself, just taking some of those elements and incorporating them into a digital community or an online community, plus our brand. Like there was just a couple of routes that we could play around with there. Excellent.
So we have a question from William Gordon, and he says, I just booked tickets to Portland, and that's Portland, Oregon. For those watching, not Portland, Maine. What should I expect? Looking forward to it. This is a MicroConf local event happening in just about 5-6 weeks from now?
Yep, September 15th. So that's happening in Portland. So one-day event. It's going to run from 10 o'clock until 6 p.m. approximately in Portland. That's actually the schedule for all of the local events that are going to be taking place over the course of the 4 cities that we're hosting in. We are going to be hosting 4 different kind of keynote style conversations with a little bit of mastermind element tied into it. So we're going to be matching all of the people that have purchased tickets to the event pre-event, so that they have a group of people to start connecting with before they get to the events on site. We are looking at some interesting elements in terms of the way that COVID has progressed over the course of the last couple of weeks in terms of restricting capacity even further than we had anticipated, implementing some particular strategies around the way that we are going to be seating people, the way that we're going to be checking people in. We're going to be publishing a pretty thorough guide on how we are going to be kind of doing the things that we can do to control the space so that we're providing kind of the safest experience possible. We're also going to be serving lunch. We're going to be doing a happy hour style thing towards the end of the day. We have Asia Arangio, who's going to be coming out to each of the 4 locations that we're hosting these events, and she's going to be spending time talking about finding your best opportunities for finding growth customers. So I think that part is going to be able to tie a through line throughout each of the individual locals. We wanted to have it be a similar experience across each individual city. So I think that is going to be a unique element of this particular series of events. It's going to be a good time. It's going to be relatively condensed MicroConf into a one-day experience, while we also add that hallway track experience that people are used to when they come out to the actual events.
Yep, it's a pretty good summary. It's a one day. It's about 6 or 7 hours, including happy hour. And it's, as you said, Asia Arangio from Demand Maven will be speaking, Jordan Gall from Cart Hook and Rally, Tracy Osborne, and myself. So 4 speakers, and then lots of time to connect. That's what we found. we've run a couple almost impromptu local events in the past where I tweeted out and then mentioned on a podcast and get 50, 60 people in a room in the same city. And they realized, we didn't know each other. They had never met each other, but they're bootstrappers and they're people trying to do this thing, trying to get to self-sustaining. And it's cool to be able to bring the speakers in town, but the speakers, as always, are an excuse for all of us to get together. So if we can get 50 to 100 people into a room, and you find out, wait, you live down the street from me, you live in that next neighborhood, wait, we work in the same building, like that is, I think, that's the permanent takeaway, because there's going to be tactics and strategies. That's an inspiration. That's always MicroConf, but building those relationships within the cities is going to be a big key to it.
Definitely.
All right. Another question. Why the departure from Las Vegas? So for folks who don't know, our US Growth event was in Vegas from 2011 through 2019. And then in 2020, we were going to do Minneapolis, and now that's 2022, which will be our next one. But producer Xander, why did we make that executive decision?
Yeah, so we have a interesting... Vegas is an interesting city. It's glitz, it's glamour. It's also a little bit grungy. It's kind of got this vibe or this reputation for just being a place of extravagance, of lushness, of indulgence, debauchery. Yeah, exactly. And so that's, well, it's not necessarily counter to the MicroConf brand. It's not something that our audience is constantly seeking. That's not a high level desire or wish from our audience. And so we've got some feedback year after year that if the event was hosted anywhere but Las Vegas, it would be better. So we saw the other side of that conversation where people were actively telling us that they weren't interested in coming because of the city itself. There was a degree of safety that people were concerned about, smoky hotels, things to that effect. Like there are... I'll admit I have never been to Vegas outside of a work context. And for the most part, if I ever were to go just for fun, it would be no more than 36 hours and I would find a way to get out as quickly as possible. And so from my personal perspective, it's not the destination that I'm trying to go to all the time. But we had wanted to start pursuing different cities other than Las Vegas. Probably back in 2016 was the first time that we had put out a request to see if there were any other locations that would be able to hold the event. I think one of the things that you consider is that Las Vegas is a really cost-effective location to be able to host these events. And we've always kind of wanted to have a relatively low ticket price, really cheap accommodations, central flight location. We wanted to be able to manage the costs that the attendees themselves were going to experience so that we weren't putting a lot of pressure on them in order to attend. And I think that given the expansion of MicroConf locals that we were looking to pursue, it created an opportunity for us to broaden the number of cities we were going to be in, to reduce the costs for the folks that were coming out to what was MicroConf Starter, by putting it in locations that were closer to the audience that were coming out to the events anyway. Turn it into a one day so you don't have as much of a time investment that you are required to give in order to attend the event, but also to as you said, increase the number of digital entrepreneurs and software entrepreneurs that are out there. Like that is kind of that mission that we've been talking about, is to really increase the number of people that are able to do this and the resources that they need to do it, to kind of open that up a little bit more so it doesn't cost them a capital investment just to be able to attend an event that we think is going to provide a lot of value for their education in this space.
Yeah, and that was you named several factors that we consider when we're picking locations. And some things we liked about Vegas are it's easy to get to, usually cheap flights, big airport. It's made to get a lot of people moved around. It's warm, and even in the early spring, warmish. We've had some cold, windy days, but in general, it's warmer than having it in a cold location. And the price as you said, the room, right? For the hotel rooms, as well as the actual ticket prices we could provide. And those were the three benefits, because a lot of the other stuff, as you said, were negatives. And we had folks mention to us or tweeting it out. And to be honest, a lot of them were women who said, I don't feel comfortable coming to Las Vegas. And that was a big issue, because we know that diversity across all of tech and across all startups is a big issue, and we take diversity, equity, and inclusion very seriously here, as we have for years. And that was a non-trivial part of this decision, right?
Yeah.
Was to make it more, I guess I'll say, welcoming, or just, as you said, feeling safe for more people. Now, would we never have a MicroConf in Vegas again? No, I think there's a possibility, we would. Yeah, will MicroConf ever come back to Vegas? That's a question there. We have no plans to do that, but I would certainly never say never. See, I don't mind. I think you mind Vegas more than I do. My grandma lived there, and so we would go like 2 or 3 times a year. So even when I was a kid, so I'm kind of used to it. And if you go to like the non-smoky hotels, and if you go to the shows, and the shows are amazing. Like I saw Beatles Love, and we saw a bunch of Cirque shows, and that's what I enjoy, and a little bit of gambling here and there.
I think this goes to the idea of like, where is your dream destination as well? Like if price wasn't a limiting factor, if these other elements were avoidable in the context of what it's going to cost in order to be able to produce this, in order to be able to attend it. Like as you said, like with the feedback that we got from our female side of the audience in terms of a distaste for Las Vegas, just given the reputation that the city has, I think that is what would pretty significantly preclude me from wanting to pursue Las Vegas as a destination again for the event, just because that is one of my biggest charges, and one of the things that I feel like I hold the most responsibility for is creating a space that feels safe, that feels inclusive, and that everybody feels like they belong. And so I think that just taking that piece of feedback into consideration is useful, is important. But I also think that there are so many other destinations where you can kind of capture a similar sentiment to the excitement and the energy and the kind of awesomeness of the shows, the food scene, things like that you do find in Vegas. I think there are so many other places that you potentially can find that, specifically like New York, Los Angeles. Like there's these major metropolitan destinations that are a little price exclusive. So that's one of the reasons that this is kind of a little bit of a pipe dream. But there are destinations that kind of fill those holes that moving out of Las Vegas that might be created. But I think that if we are able to get to a point where we can mitigate the costs that are associated with going to those types of destinations, that would be my default.
Yep, that makes sense. Speaking, you brought up dream locations, if money were no object. I think that's a really good question. Someone threw that out the other day. And I mean, I got to be honest, like I've wanted to have a MicroConf in Minneapolis and in Denver for quite some time, because I really like the downtowns of those cities. And, it's probably no accident that growth 2022 in US is Minneapolis and 2023 is Denver. Yep. But aside from that, I really like Boston. I lived there for a year. I would love to do it there. The hotels are $350 a night, and it's just been cost prohibitive. We would need to charge a lot more than a typical MicroConf growth, but I'd love Boston. I like New York. I like New York in short, small doses, 48-hour, 72-hour doses. Like in terms of Manhattan and the energy there, it's like, this is cool. And then I'm exhausted, So I wouldn't mind doing that. And then I don't know. I mean, having lived in LA, I don't know if I would do it in LA. It's just such sprawl. I guess we could pick you'd have to almost pick like Pasadena. I want something that has that downtown energy, Right. Pasadena would be outrageously expensive, but that's why it's a dream location maybe. San Diego is another one that I think would be super fun. Just to have a MicroConf near a beach, like we do in Croatia, right?
Yeah. Yep, exactly. Cool. Like MicroConf in Hawaii sounds fantastic. Yes. That's a great idea. I don't have to go anywhere at that point. And so there's a lot of positives that come with that, but as you look at some of your more luxury destinations, you've got places like Dubai, you've got places like Hawaii, you've got the Caribbean. There are some pretty nice places out there, but the Maldives, Bali, like there are just these amazing locations that you could host. And like my dream destination would be a space station on the moon. Like, could you imagine flying everybody up, getting them to the moon, setting up conference tables, doing like spacewalks? Like that's the dream. But yeah,
You're an event producer.
I don't know if the millions and millions per person that would cost is going to be a viable option for us.
That's why it's a dream location, though, right? It's so funny.
Philippe is saying voting for Hawaii, so
yeah,
I'll take that.
I would not put it past us to. I mean, for folks who don't know, producer Xander lives in Hawaii, and so this is kind of a natural. It's a natural something to have there, whether we to try a local there or whether we do a full-on event. I guess there wouldn't be that many folks living on Hawaii, in the MicroConf community, so we probably have to do a longer one. But
well, if you're interested in moving out to Hawaii, I'm currently working at Impact Hub Hub Hawaii. It used to be part of Impact Hub out here, and so they are looking to open a bunch of locations all across the island. So this is not an advertisement. I'm not getting sponsorship dollars, but I am stealing a conference room today. So
nice. Well, let's see what else. There's a question about the plans for the next few years. I know we talked a little bit, you asked me at the top about 10 years out, but what have we been talking about? But either, I guess, internally that you feel comfortable sharing, or, what have we said publicly that maybe people have forgotten, right? Because like you said, we made a big announcement in December of 2019, and it's like, have we revisited that of like, hey, we're trying to do a MicroConf Asia next year, for example, assuming.
Yeah. So I think that some of the things that just casual reminders for people are that the MicroConf Video Vault here on YouTube has over 300 videos that we have gathered from different conferences over the course of the last 10 years. We have these MicroConf on air episodes that are live streamed every other Wednesday, and that archive is all available here. We've got the MicroConf podcast. So this is less about the future and more about the things that we said we were going to do during that future of MicroConf conversation that we have really honed in on, and we've executed on those elements. MicroConf Connect, if you're not in there, that's microconfconnect.com. That is our Slack community. So we're putting that together. We're really excited that we're going to be looking at hiring a community manager over the course of the next couple of weeks. So if you pop over to microconf.com, the bottom on the footnote, there's a jobs posting that's down there. So you can click over there if you have any interest in.
We'd love to have you.
Yeah, totally. I think that's one of the things that I am really excited about, is to really just increase the value of the community experience, especially within Slack, getting people connected digitally, especially right now, and especially as we have over the course of the last year and a half. Like, we really want to, this community being a executor and a founder within the world of independent SaaS, and kind of the side hustle, like as you're in your earliest stages, as you're side hustling, you may be working on this product from your basement, or you may be working from home constantly. One of the pieces of feedback that we've gotten frequently is that there is a bit of a sense of isolation that you can run into. And so that's one of the key reasons that you guys started MicroConf, is just to be able to bring people together. And I think that is one of the goals that we've always created. And I think by bringing on a community manager whose sole responsibility, or one of their sole responsibilities, is to kind of foster that sense of community, to increase engagement, to kind of spark conversations, and to encourage people to continue chatting and getting to know one another. I think that that's going to be a really cool opportunity to see the community evolve within Slack specifically. And then to see that on the outside and to see people in person at future events, I think that's going to be pretty exciting as well.
Yep.
We got a question in YouTube here. Can I join MicroConf from India? And of course, as Rob mentioned, we made some announcements last year. You can head over to microconfconnect.com and join the Slack community at any point. That is a global community. We've got about 2,200 people that are in there. And we also have plans to host MicroConf Asia in 2022. Looking at dates and destinations right now, we've got it kind of narrowed down. I don't know if we want to talk about that quite yet, mostly because I like to be cagey about those types of things until I have signed contracts. But we are planning on heading out to Asia for our first flagship MicroConf Growth Conference in Asia. Otherwise, we have MicroConf Europe happening in Dubrovnik, or our MicroConf local program. So it gets a little bit closer to you in India, but our intention is to try and find a way to get across all 6 primary continents. And if I can get onto Antarctica, I would love to do that as well.
MicroConf local Antarctica. I love that idea. Yeah. In addition, there's always youtube.com/MicroConf, obviously, to watch watch our content, and the MicroConf remote. We'll be doing another MicroConf remote. I don't know that we have it on the books now, but that's something that makes it really easy. Those are low cost events. It's, last time we did it, it's about 5 hours total, and we split it over 3 days, so you didn't have to sit 5 hours in front of it, and you kind of work it around your work. These are all ways that you can get value, get inspiration, and get ideas, and start to get invested in the community, and allow the community to invest in you as well. Well, sir, we are at time. It always goes so fast. I could go for another 30 minutes just chatting about MicroConf. You know that, right?
Yeah. We're going to, as we start our one-on-one weekly call.
Yeah, that's right. Why don't should we just live stream that?
let's just hang out on the live stream as we do our internal conversation. Yeah,
that'll be great. I love it. So, producer Xander, if folks want to keep up with you, you are producer Xander on Twitter. That's with an X, Xander. And obviously, if folks want to see what you're working on, microconf.com.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining me, sir.
For sure.
As we roll out and producer Xander steps back behind the screen, and I think our outro music's going to start. I want to thank Hey and Stripe for being our headline partners once again in 2021 and into 2022. Next up, August 18th, I'm going to be talking with Jennifer Yip of Lunch Money, talking about building a B2C SaaS app. It's great to see you today. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Talk to you guys soon.